The strange meeting. The wind was cold that evening. The sky above the ruined colony turned red as the sun went down. The streets were quiet, broken metal and stone lying everywhere. People hurried inside their homes, closing doors and windows. No one wanted to be outside when the night came, but one man walked slowly, his boots crunching against the dirt road. His name was Daniel, a human traveler who had stayed in many colonies before. He was used to danger, used to silence, used to being alone. Still, something about this place felt different. He could feel eyes watching him from the shadows. Then he heard a sound. It was soft, almost too soft to notice. A small whimper, a cry. Daniel stopped, listening carefully. The sound came from an old building, broken and dark. The roof was half gone, and the walls looked ready to fall. Most people would ignore it, but Daniel felt something inside him. His heart told him to look. He stepped inside. The air smelled of dust and rust. His eyes adjusted to the shadows. And then he saw her, a little alien girl sitting on the ground. Her clothes were torn, her skin pale and thin. Two small horns curved gently on her head, and her eyes, big shining eyes, looked up at him with fear. She was no taller than his waist, fragile like glass. When she saw Daniel, she gasped and tried to move back, pressing against the broken wall. "Don't hurt me," she whispered. Her voice was shaking, weak like she had not eaten for days. Daniel raised his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. "I promise." For a long moment, they just stared at each other. The air was still. The girl's small body trembled. Daniel could see the dirt on her face, the scratches on her arms, the fear in her eyes. He stepped closer carefully so she wouldn't run. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, her little lips trembled, and her eyes filled with tears. She looked at him like he was her last hope, the only light in the dark, and then with a voice so soft it almost broke, she said the words that changed everything. "Will you be my father?" Daniel froze. His chest tightened. Out of all the things she could have asked, he never expected that. He had fought in battles, traveled across stars, faced enemies stronger than him. But these simple words cut deeper than any blade. He looked at her, really looked at her. This was not just a scared child. This was someone who had lost everything. Someone abandoned, unwanted, left behind in the ruins. "Why me?" Daniel asked quietly. The girl's eyes shone with tears. "Because everyone else runs away. They say I am cursed. They say I bring death. But you came to me. You didn't run." Her small hands gripped her knees tightly, as if she expected him to turn and leave like all the others. Daniel knelt down slowly so his eyes were level with hers. He could see the pain in her face, the loneliness in her tiny frame. Something stirred inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. He remembered another face long ago, a child he couldn't save. The memory burned, but it also gave him strength. "I don't care what they say," Daniel said firmly. "You're not cursed, you're just a child." The girl blinked at him, surprised. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Daniel held out his hand. "If you want me to stay, then I'll stay. You don't have to be alone anymore." For a moment, she didn't move. The silence stretched. But then, slowly, her small hand reached out. It trembled as it touched his. Her skin was cold, but the grip was tight, like she was afraid he would vanish if she let go. And in that moment, Daniel knew. He couldn't leave her. Not here. Not in this dying place. He picked her up gently, and she rested her head against his chest. She was so light, so fragile. He wondered how she had survived this long. Outside, the wind howled through the broken streets. Somewhere in the distance, Daniel heard whispers, villagers closing their windows, muttering about the cursed child and the fool who touched her. But Daniel didn't care. He walked forward, carrying her in his arms. The girl closed her eyes and whispered again, almost like a prayer. Father. And Daniel, for the first time in years, felt something he thought was lost. He felt purpose. But as he carried her away, a shadow moved in the darkness. Unseen eyes watched them. Something or someone was waiting. The meeting was only the beginning. The first night, the house Daniel had rented was small, made of old wood and steel scraps. It stood at the edge of the colony, far from the main square. Most people didn't like neighbors there, and Daniel had chosen it for peace. But tonight, the silence felt heavier than ever. He pushed the creaking door open and stepped inside, carrying the little alien girl in his arms. She was still pressed against him, her small fingers clutching his jacket, as if letting go would mean losing everything. Daniel set her down gently on a chair near the old heater. The flames inside were weak, but enough to keep the night chill away. The girl looked around, her eyes wide. She seemed surprised that the place was warm and safe. "Are you hungry?" Daniel asked. She nodded slowly, not speaking. He opened a small box of supplies and gave her a piece of bread and some dried fruit. She ate carefully, like someone who hadn't tasted food in days. Every bite she took, she glanced at him, as if expecting him to snatch it away. But Daniel just sat across from her, silent, watching her eat. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you." Daniel leaned back in his chair. He wanted to ask her questions. Who was chasing her? What had happened to her people? But the look in her eyes stopped him. She wasn't ready, not yet. So instead he said, "You can sleep here tonight. I'll keep watch." Her lips trembled. "Will you stay near me?" Daniel gave a small nod. "I'll stay." The girl lay down on the old couch, curling up under a thin blanket Daniel had given her. Soon her breathing grew steady, her chest rising and falling softly. But her sleep was not peaceful. She tossed and turned, murmuring words Daniel could not understand. Her small hands clawed at the blanket, her face twisted in fear. Daniel leaned closer, hearing fragments. "Don't take me. Please. I didn't do anything." Then suddenly she cried out, a single word clear in the quiet room. "Father." Daniel's heart tightened. He reached out and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm here." For a moment she calmed, her trembling fading, but as Daniel sat back he heard something else, something that did not come from her. A scratching sound. He froze. It came from the window. Long, slow, deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Like claws dragging against glass. Daniel's hand went to the knife strapped to his boot. He moved silently toward the window. The room was dark, the only light coming from the faint glow of the heater. He peered through the cracked curtain. Nothing, just the empty street. But the sound came again, louder this time, followed by a whisper carried on the wind. "She belongs to us." Daniel's blood ran cold. He spun back toward the girl. She was still asleep, though her body shook with nightmares. He returned to her side and crouched low. "You're safe," he whispered, more to himself than to her. The scratching stopped. The whisper faded. The night grew still once again. Hours passed slowly. Daniel did not sleep. He sat by the door, knife in hand, listening. Every creak of wood, every gust of wind, every distant howl made him tense. His eyes kept moving back to the girl. At one point he noticed something strange. On her arm, faint lines glowed softly, like silver veins under her skin. They pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Daniel frowned. He had seen strange marks before, usually linked to alien technology or ancient relics, but never on a living child. He reached out, almost touching the glowing lines, but stopped himself. Whatever it wasn't ordinary. The girl stirred, opening her eyes halfway. "Don't let them take me," she whispered, half asleep. "I won't," Daniel said firmly. "Not now, not ever." She drifted back into sleep, her breathing slowing. The glowing lines faded until they vanished completely. By morning, the colony outside was already alive with noise. Traders shouted, machines hummed, guards marched through the streets. Daniel stood by the window watching. He could see the stairs, the way people whispered as they passed his house. They knew. Somehow they always knew. Behind him, the girl sat up, rubbing her eyes. Her hair was messy, her face pale. But when she saw him standing there, she gave a small smile. "You didn't leave," she said quietly. Daniel turned to her. "I told you. I stay." Her eyes softened, filled with something like hope, something fragile. But before Daniel could say more, a heavy knock shook the door. Bang, bang, bang. "Open up!" A rough voice shouted. "By order of the colony guards, hand over the child at once." The girl froze. Her small body went stiff and fear filled her eyes again. Daniel gripped his knife tighter. He had known this would come, maybe not so soon, but it was inevitable. He looked at the girl. "Stay behind me." Then he moved toward the door, ready for whatever waited on the other side. The first night was over, and the real fight was about to begin. Secrets of the alien girl. The pounding on the door grew louder. Bang, bang, bang. "Open this door, traveler," the guard shouted. "You are hiding something that does not belong to you." Daniel's hand gripped his knife tightly. His eyes flicked to the little alien girl. She was shaking, her wide eyes full of fear. She whispered, "Please, don't let them take me." Daniel moved closer, crouching so his eyes were level with hers. "I won't," he said firmly. "But I need to know why they're after you. Tell me the truth." The girl hesitated. Her lips trembled, but then she took a deep breath as if holding in the secret for too long. "They killed my people," she whispered. "All of them. Soldiers came with fire and weapons. They said we were dangerous. They said, I must not live." Daniel's chest tightened. "Why? You're just a child." The girl looked down at her arms. She pulled back her sleeve. There, faint but glowing, were the same silver lines Daniel had seen the night before. They pulsed softly, as if alive. "I carry it," she said. "The heart of my people. It was given to me before they died. It is inside me." Daniel frowned. "What is it?" She shook her head. "I don't fully know, but they fear it. They call it a weapon. They say if I live, I will destroy them. All." The banging at the door grew sharper. "Last warning," the guard roared. "Open the door or we break it down." Daniel's jaw tightened. He understood now. She was not just a lonely child. She was the last of her kind, holding something powerful within her. That was why the colony wanted her. Not because she was cursed, but because she was different. He stood tall, turning to the door. "Stay behind me," he told her. With a heavy crack, the door burst open. 3 guards stormed inside, weapons raised. Their armor was scratched but strong, their faces hidden behind metal helmets. "There she is," one shouted, pointing at the girl. "Grab her." Daniel moved fast. His knife flashed as he stepped in front of her. "You'll have to go through me." The lead guard sneered. "Step aside, human. That creature is dangerous. The colony cannot allow her to stay." "She's just a child," Daniel barked. "She's done nothing to you." "She carries the mark," the guard snapped, pointing at her glowing veins. "The mark of death. If you protect her, you are a fool." The girl whimpered, pressing herself against the wall. Daniel's eyes burned with anger. "I've seen enough monsters in my life. She's not one of them." "You are," the guard snarled. "Take them both." The fight exploded. One guard swung a baton, but Daniel dodged and slammed his elbow into the man's helmet. The guard stumbled back. Another lunged forward, but Daniel grabbed his arm and twisted, throwing him hard to the ground. The girl gasped, clutching her small hands together. The glowing lines on her arms shone brighter, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Daniel blocked, another strike gritting his teeth. He fought with everything he had, but the guards were trained and there were too many. Then suddenly, light burst from the girl. A wave of silver energy filled the room. The guards froze mid-step, their bodies stiff as if held by invisible chains. Their weapons clattered to the floor. The girl's eyes glowed, tears streaming down her face. "Stop," she whispered. "Stop hurting him." The energy rippled outward. The walls shook. The heater flickered and went out. Even Daniel felt the pressure against his chest, heavy and powerful. Then, just as suddenly as it came, the light faded. The girl collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. The guards scrambled to their feet, fear written across their faces. She is the cursed one shouted. "She carries the power." They stumbled back toward the door, too afraid to fight further. "This isn't over," the lead guard spat. "The colony will not rest until she is destroyed." Then they fled into the street, their boots pounding away. The room was quiet again. Daniel rushed to the girl's side. She was pale, her small body trembling. "Easy," he said, kneeling beside her. "You're safe. I've got you." She shook her head. "No. I made it worse. Now they know for sure." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "Listen to me. You saved my life. You're stronger than you think." Her eyes filled with tears. "But they'll never stop. They'll keep hunting me. Everyone who stays near me, they get hurt." Daniel looked at her, his voice firm. "Then they'll have to go through me every time. I'm not leaving you." The girl stared at him, surprised. Slowly, a fragile smile appeared on her lips. "You really mean it," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "I gave you my word. I stay." Outside, the village was stirring. Whispers filled the streets. News of what happened spread fast. People spoke of the traveler who defied the guards. People spoke of the cursed child whose power shook the walls. Daniel stood at the window, watching torches gather in the distance. He knew what would come next. The colony would not let them stay. They would return with more soldiers, more weapons. He turned back to the girl. "We can't stay here," he said. "We need to leave tonight." Her small hand gripped his. "Where will we go?" Daniel looked out at the dark horizon. "Somewhere they can't find us. Somewhere you'll be safe." But in his heart, he knew safety would not come easily. The girl carried a secret too great, a power too heavy. And now, the entire colony wanted her gone. The fight for her future had only just begun. The escape. The night was dark, but the colony was awake. Daniel looked out the window and saw torches gathering near the main street. Guards marched together, their armor clanking in the silence. Villagers stood behind them, pointing, whispering. Fear was written on every face. "They will come back," Daniel muttered, "stronger, ready to kill." The little alien girl stood beside him, her small hand gripping his sleeve. "If they find me, they will hurt you too. Maybe you should leave me." Daniel crouched so his eyes met hers. "Listen, I gave you my word. I'm not leaving you. If we stay, we die. But if we run, we have a chance." Her lips trembled. She nodded. Daniel moved quickly. He grabbed a small bag, stuffing it with bread, water, and a few tools. He pulled on his jacket and strapped his knife tight. Then he looked at the girl. "You can walk?" She nodded, but her steps were shaky. Daniel sighed, then bent down and lifted her onto his back. She was light, far too light, as if she hadn't eaten enough for weeks. He pushed open the back door. The cold night air rushed in. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound carried danger. "Hold on tight," he whispered. The girl's arms wrapped around his neck. Daniel stepped into the night. The colony streets were empty, but the sound of guards grew louder from the other side. Daniel moved fast, sticking to the alleys, avoiding the torches. His boots hit the dirt softly, his breath steady. Behind one corner, he froze. 2 guards stood at the end of the alley, blocking the way. Daniel pressed his back against the wall, lowering his voice. "Stay quiet." The girl buried her face into his shoulder. Daniel waited for the guards to move, but instead, one of them turned. "Did you hear that?" The guard stepped closer, eyes scanning the shadows. His hand rested on the grip of his weapon. Daniel's mind raced. He had no gun, no shield, only a knife. He couldn't fight two armed men and keep the girl safe. Then the girl whispered into his ear, "I can help." Before Daniel could answer, her small hand glowed faintly. A whisper of silver light slipped from her fingers, rolling across the ground like mist. The guard blinked, confused. His eyes grew heavy, his body swayed. Within seconds, both guards slumped against the wall, fast asleep. Daniel stared at her, shocked. "You can do that?" The girl's face was pale. "Only for a short time. It makes me tired." Daniel shook his head in wonder, then adjusted her on his back. "Save your strength. We still have far to go." They slipped past the guards and made their way out of the colony's edge. The walls were high, built from scrap metal and old ship parts. Searchlights moved slowly across the ground. Daniel crouched low behind a broken cart. He studied the pattern of the lights. When the beam turned away, he sprinted forward, his legs pumping hard. They reached the wall. A section near the corner had collapsed years ago, leaving a narrow gap. Daniel squeezed through, scraping his arm on the metal, then pulled the girl after him. On the other side, the world was wild. The air was colder, the ground uneven. Strange plants glowed faintly in the dark, and far away, the howls of alien beasts echoed. The girl shivered. "It's scary out here." Daniel adjusted his grip on the knife. "Better than the colony. At least out here, the monsters are honest." They moved into the wasteland. Hours passed, their breaths turning to mist in the cold air. The land was harsh. Rocky cliffs, sharp thorns, and rivers of black water. Daniel pushed on, his body heavy but his mind sharp. He could not fail her. Suddenly, a roar shook the night. From the darkness, a creature stepped into their path. It was massive, with 4 legs, skin like stone, and glowing red eyes. Its mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. The ground trembled as it moved closer. Daniel set the girl down gently. "Stay behind me." The beast roared again, charging forward. Daniel rolled aside, pulling out his knife. He slashed at its leg, but the blade barely cut through the thick hide. The creature turned, swinging its massive tail. Daniel ducked, the wind rushing past his face. The girl screamed, "Daniel!" The creature lunged again. Daniel braced for the hit, but the girl stepped forward. Her small body glowed bright, her silver lines pulsing like fire. She raised her tiny hands, and the ground itself seemed to respond. The creature stopped. Its red eyes flickered, dimmed, then softened. It lowered its head, bowing before her. Daniel stared, breathing hard. "What did you just do?" The girl panted, sweat on her forehead. "I asked it not to hurt us." The beast turned slowly and walked away, disappearing into the dark. Daniel blinked, still gripping his knife. He looked at her, amazed. "You can control them." The girl shook her head weakly. "Not control, just speak." "They listened to me." Daniel exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "You're full of surprises, kid." By dawn, they found a cave hidden in the cliffs. Daniel carried her inside and set her down gently. The cave was deep, its walls covered in strange carvings glowing faintly. The girl touched the wall, her fingers tracing the symbols. Her eyes widened. "This place," she whispered. "It's from my people." Daniel frowned. "Your people built this?" Before she could answer, the ground rumbled. A low hum filled the cave. Lights flickered across the walls, and deep inside, something massive began to awaken. Daniel stepped back, pulling his knife instinctively. "What in the hell is this?" The girl's voice trembled, but her eyes were bright with wonder. "It's not just a cave," she whispered. "It's a home, and it's waiting for me." The hidden power. The cave was alive. As Daniel and the girl stood in the center, the walls glowed brighter, filling the darkness with soft silver light. Symbols, carved long ago, pulsed like veins. The air hummed, vibrating in Daniel's chest. The girl touched one of the glowing marks. It lit up instantly, stretching across the walls like fire spreading through dry wood. Daniel tightened his grip on his knife. "What is this place?" The girl's voice was quiet, but full of awe. "It's a sanctuary. My people built these caves before the wars. They said one day when everything was lost we would return here." She looked at him with wide eyes. "It's waiting for me." At the far end of the cave, stone shifted. A massive shape rose from the ground, an ancient machine tall and silent for centuries. Its eyes flickered with blue light as dust fell from its body. Daniel stepped back. "That thing looks like it could crush us both." The girl shook her head. She walked forward slowly, unafraid. "No, it won't hurt me." The machine lowered its head. A hologram burst into life, filling the cave with light. A tall alien figure appeared, made of shimmering silver. Its voice was calm, echoing as if it came from everywhere. "Daughter of the last flame," the figure said. "You carry the heart. You are the heir." The girl gasped. "Mother!" Daniel blinked. "Wait, you know her?" Tears filled the girl's eyes. "It's not her. It's only a memory. But it looks like my mother." The hologram reached out, though its hand passed through the air. "The heart is our legacy. Within you is the power to heal, to awaken, to rebuild, but also to destroy. Many will hunt you. Many will fear you. But you are not alone," the girl whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't want to be a queen. I don't want power. I just want a father." Daniel's throat tightened. He looked at her small, trembling frame, the tears streaming down her face. She was only a child, yet the galaxy wanted her to carry a crown she never asked for. He stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Then you don't have to be anything else. You don't need a throne. You just need someone who won't leave you, and that's me." The hologram flickered. "He protects you. Then he is part of our story too." The ground shook suddenly. Daniel's head snapped toward the cave entrance. He heard voices outside, angry, loud, and growing closer. "Search the cliffs," a guard shouted. "They can't have gone far," Daniel cursed under his breath. "They found us." The hologram's voice grew sharper. "You must choose. Stay and awaken the sanctuary fully, or run and hide again. But know this, the hunters will never stop, not until the heart is theirs." The girl looked at Daniel, her eyes wide with fear. "What do we do?" Daniel gritted his teeth. He wanted to fight, but there were too many outside. He couldn't risk her life. "We leave," he said. "We'll come back when it's safe." But the girl hesitated. "If I leave, the sanctuary sleeps again. My people will remain gone forever." Daniel crouched low, gripping her hands. "Listen, your people are gone, but you are alive. That means hope is alive too. We don't need to rush this. We survive first. Then, we decide what comes next." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. The rumble outside grew louder. Stones fell from the ceiling as heavy boots marched toward the cave. Daniel pulled her close. "Stay behind me." As they turned to leave, the hologram spoke one last time. "Child, remember, the heart is not only power, it is choice. You will decide if it saves or destroys." The light faded. The machine lowered its head and the cave grew dim again. Daniel and the girl hurried to the back tunnel. The path was narrow, jagged, and filled with shadows. Their steps echoed, each sound. Too loud in the silence, the girl whispered. "They're close." "I know," Daniel muttered. "Keep moving." Suddenly, light beams cut through the tunnel ahead. Guards had already found another way in. Daniel pulled the girl behind a rock. His knife felt too small, too weak, against rifles and armor. His heart pounded, but his eyes stayed calm. The girl looked at him with fear. "We can't fight them all." Daniel's mind raced. Then he remembered the beast from the wasteland, the way she had calmed it. He leaned close. "Can you call for help, like you did before?" She hesitated. "Maybe, but I don't know if they'll come." Daniel squeezed her hand. "Try. We don't have much time." The girl closed her eyes. The silver lines on her skin began to glow again, brighter than before. The air filled with a strange hum. From deep in the cliffs, a roar answered. The guards froze, their lights trembling. Another roar shook the tunnel, louder, closer. Then the ground cracked as a massive creature burst through the wall, one of the wasteland beasts, its eyes burning red. The guards screamed, firing their weapons. The creature slammed into them, scattering them like toys. The tunnel filled with chaos, dust, and light. Daniel grabbed the girl's hand. "Now! Run!" They sprinted through the smoke, the roars and screams echoing behind them. The girl stumbled, but Daniel pulled her forward, never letting go. When they finally emerged into the cold night air, both were coughing, covered in dust. The cave behind them glowed faintly, but then grew silent once more. Daniel put his arm around her, steadying her small frame. "We're alive, that's what matters." The girl leaned against him, her voice weak. "The sanctuary called me heir, but I don't want to be chosen. I just want you to stay." Daniel looked out at the endless wasteland. His jaw tightened. "Then that's all you'll be, my daughter. Nothing else matters." But in his heart, he knew the truth. The galaxy would not stop. The hunters would keep coming, and the heart inside her would only grow stronger. Their journey was far from over, the battle for her future. The wasteland was quiet at dawn. Cold mist covered the rocks, and the horizon glowed faintly with the first touch of light. Daniel and the little alien girl walked together, their steps slow after a long night. Both were tired, but neither spoke. Each was lost in thought, the man wondering how long they could keep running, the child wondering how long before her secret destroyed everything. Then the silence broke. A sharp whistle cut through the air. Daniel froze. He recognized the sound. Military signal. "Down," he hissed. He pulled the girl behind a boulder just as a squad of armored soldiers appeared on the ridge above. Their rifles gleamed in the rising sun. "There," one shouted. The cursed child. Bullets of burning light struck the ground where they had just stood. Rocks shattered, dirt flew. The girl cried out, clinging to Daniel's arm. Daniel's jaw clenched. No more running. The soldiers surrounded them quickly, a half circle of rifles and armor. Their leader stepped forward, tall and grim, his helmet marked with red paint. His voice was sharp. "Traveler, you've made a mistake. Give us the girl. You'll be allowed to leave alive." Daniel stood tall, shielding her behind him. "She's not yours to take." "She is not a child," the leader barked. "She carries a weapon inside her. The heart is too dangerous to be free. Hand her over." Daniel's voice was steady. "She's not a weapon. She's my daughter." The soldiers laughed coldly. The leader raised his hand. "Then you die with her." The first shots rang out. Daniel shoved the girl down and rolled aside, pulling his knife. He dashed toward the nearest soldier, slamming into him with all his strength. The rifle clattered away, and Daniel drove his blade into the man's armor joint. The soldier fell, with a cry. But there were too many. Shots burned past Daniel, one grazing his arm. He grunted but kept moving, his eyes sharp, his body refusing to stop. The girl crouched low, tears streaming down her face. She whispered to herself, "Don't hurt him. Please don't hurt him." The silver lines on her arms began to glow. Daniel fought fiercely, but the soldiers pressed harder. A rifle butt smashed against his side, knocking him to the ground. He coughed, forcing himself to stand again, but the leader stepped forward, weapon raised. "It ends now." The girl screamed, "No!" Light exploded from her body. The ground shook as a wave of silver energy blasted outward. Soldiers were thrown into the air like rag dolls, their rifles sparking and breaking. Rocks cracked. The air itself hummed with raw power. The leader staggered, barely holding his ground. His eyes widened behind the helmet. Impossible. The girl stood in the center of the storm, her small frame glowing like a star. Her eyes shone silver, her hair lifted by invisible wind. Tears streaked her glowing cheeks. "Leave us alone," she cried. The energy surged, knocking the soldiers further back. Some tried to crawl away. Others screamed as their armor fried with sparks. Daniel shielded his eyes from the blinding light. "Kid, stop! You'll burn yourself out." But she couldn't hear him. The power inside her was spilling uncontrollably, shaking the ground, tearing through the air. The leader roared and charged, raising his weapon. Daniel moved fast, slamming into him before he could reach her. The two men crashed onto the rocks, fighting hand to hand. The leader was strong, but Daniel's will was stronger. He headbutted the helmet, then shoved the knife deep into the gap of the armor. The leader gasped, staggered, and fell. Daniel turned back to the girl. She was still glowing, her small body trembling, her voice breaking. "Please, don't take him away. Please don't let him die." The storm around her cracked the sky itself, thunder rolling though there were no clouds. Daniel rushed to her side, grabbing her shoulders. "Look at me. I'm here. I'm not leaving. You don't have to do this alone." Her glowing eyes locked onto his. For a moment, the storm slowed. "You'll stay?" she whispered. "Always," Daniel said firmly. The light flared one last time, and then vanished. The wasteland fell silent again. Soldiers lay scattered, unconscious or retreating. Smoke rose from the ground. The girl collapsed into Daniel's arms, weak and pale. He caught her, holding her close. Her skin was burning, hot, her breath shallow. "Easy," Daniel whispered. "You're safe now." Her small hand clutched his shirt. Her lips moved softly. "Please, don't leave me." Daniel's chest ached. He brushed her hair back. "I won't. Not now. Not ever." Her eyes fluttered shut. She rested against him, breathing faintly. Daniel looked around. The soldiers were broken, but not all dead. Some would return. Others would send word. He knew this was only a battle, not the war. But he also knew something else. He had seen the truth of her power. She wasn't just carrying a secret, she was the secret. She could destroy armies, or she could heal worlds, and now everyone would want her. Daniel lifted her gently, carrying her in his arms. She was so small, so fragile, yet inside her burned something the galaxy feared. He looked at the horizon, his eyes hard. "They'll keep coming," he muttered, "but so will I." For the first time in years, Daniel felt no doubt about his path. He wasn't just a traveler anymore. He was a father, and he would fight the whole galaxy if he had to. The girl stirred weakly, whispering in her sleep. "Father." Daniel held her tighter. "That's right, kid. I'm your father, and I'll keep you safe, no matter what." The rising sun painted the wasteland gold. The battle was over, but their journey had only just begun. Father of the galaxy, the wasteland stretched endlessly under the morning sun. Daniel walked slowly, the little alien girl asleep in his arms. She was still weak after unleashing her power, her silver lines dim and fading. But her small face rested peacefully against his chest. Every step Daniel took felt heavy. He knew more soldiers would come. He knew the colony would not forget. The whole galaxy might hear about the child with the heart. But as he looked down at her fragile form, he felt no fear. He had made his choice. She was his daughter, and he would stand by her. Always. By noon, Daniel found a quiet valley where the rocks formed a natural wall. A stream of clean water flowed through, and tall alien plants gave shade. It was a good place to rest, at least for now. He laid the girl on soft moss, covering her with his jacket. She stirred, opening her eyes slowly. "You didn't leave," she whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "Told you I wouldn't." Her small hand reached for his. "Even though they call me cursed?" He squeezed her hand gently. "You're not cursed, you're a gift. They're just too blind to see it." Her eyes softened, filling with quiet joy. For the first time she believed his words, but peace did not last long. The ground trembled with approaching engines. Daniel's heart sank as shadows appeared in the sky. Dropships, 3 of them, descending fast. Soldiers poured out, their armor shining, weapons ready. The girl sat up, panic in her eyes. They found us again. Daniel rose to his feet, knife in hand, though he knew it was useless against an army. He stood tall, placing himself between her and the soldiers. The commander's voice echoed through a speaker. "Traveler, hand over the child and you may live." Daniel's reply was steady, unshaken. "She's not yours, she's mine." The soldiers raised their weapons. The girl's small voice trembled behind him. "I don't want to fight anymore, but I don't want to lose you." Daniel glanced back at her. "Then listen, kid. Power doesn't make you dangerous. Fear does. You don't have to be their weapon. You don't have to be their queen. You just have to be you." Her eyes widened. "But what if I can't control it?" Daniel's voice was firm. "Then I'll be here to hold you steady." The girl's silver lines began to glow again, brighter than ever before. She stood, her tiny figure radiant, her eyes filled with tears but also with courage. The soldiers advanced, but before they could fire, the ground shook violently. The cave they had left behind. It was awake again. From the cliffs around the valley, ancient machines rose, giant guardians of her people, long asleep, now returning to life. Their eyes glowed silver, their voices booming like thunder. "The air stands, the heart lives. None shall take her." The soldiers froze in terror. Their weapons looked like toys compared to the towering guardians. The girl's voice rang out, strong despite her small size. "I am not your weapon. I am not your curse. I am only a child, and I have chosen my father." The guardians stepped forward, their massive forms shielding her and Daniel. The commander shouted for retreat. Panic spread through the troops as the ancient machines advanced. The dropships lifted, engines roaring, pulling soldiers back into the sky. Within minutes, the valley was quiet again. Daniel exhaled slowly, lowering his knife. He turned to the girl, who was breathing hard but smiling faintly. "You did it," he said softly. She shook her head. "No, we did it. You gave me strength." Daniel knelt down, pulling her into his arms. "I only gave you one thing, a promise." Her voice was a whisper against his chest. "A promise to stay." Daniel smiled. "And I'll keep it, always." The guardians slowly lowered their heads, their glowing eyes dimming. One spoke, its deep voice echoing through the valley. "Heir of the heart, your path is long, but you are not alone. This man has chosen you, and now so do we. Wherever you go, the memory of your people will follow." The girl nodded, holding Daniel's hand tighter. "I don't want to be their queen. I just want to be his daughter." The guardian's voice rumbled with quiet wisdom. "Then so it shall be. Power does not choose who you are. You choose." The machine sank back into the cliffs, silent once more. That night, Daniel and the girl sat by the stream under the stars. The galaxy stretched above them, endless and beautiful. The girl leaned against him, her voice soft. "Do you think one day people will stop being afraid of me?" Daniel looked up at the stars, then down at her small, tired face. "Maybe. Maybe not. But it doesn't matter. Because I'm not afraid. And I never will be." She smiled, her eyes closing as sleep claimed her. "Father." Daniel wrapped his arm around her gently. "Rest, kid. Tomorrow we keep moving. But tonight, you're safe." He looked at the stars again, his eyes hard, but his heart full. He wasn't a soldier anymore, or a traveler, or a survivor. He was something greater. He was her father. And if the galaxy wanted a fight, then the galaxy would find out what a father could do.